It's Wednesday, the 22nd of May, 2024. Welcome to the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, 5 stories in 5 minutes. Let's go with story number 1. The Reserve Bank seriously debated lifting the official interest rate at its board meeting 2 weeks ago and remains very alert to stubbornly high inflation.
The minutes of the Reserve Bank's board meeting show that any further slippage in the bank's current forecast for inflation could trigger another rate hike. Now, the meeting was held after the March quarter CPI data, which was higher than forecast. However, the bank said it didn't want to use monetary policy, which is a very blunt instrument, to excessively fine-tune the economy. Now, since then, the federal budget has been released and a $300 energy rebate should push inflation lower towards the end of this year. Also, the Westpac Consumer Sentiment Survey released yesterday shows that people are looking to use their Stage 3 tax cuts to pay down debt or save rather than rush out and spend. Westpac estimates that 30% will save all the tax cut, 50% will save at least half. If you've got 80% of people saving the money, that will actually help the bank's efforts to push down inflation.
Sean, if 80% of people save at least some of their Stage 3 tax cuts, does that mean then that Reserve Bank might have overestimated their impact on prices?
Possibly. It depends on what measures the central bank used to forecast people's propensity to save. Now, in the minutes of the board meeting yesterday, the Reserve Bank said households were maintaining a higher rate of savings than expected. But the Westpac figure of 80% definitely seems like a big chunk of people being prudent. But if that's the case, it is quite possible that the tax cuts won't cause as many price rises as expected. Remember, the Reserve Bank has forecasted inflation won't return to target until the second half of next year on the basis of people spending their tax cuts. So the Westpac data is definitely significant. And if it eventuates, along with the reduction in inflation thanks to the $300 energy rebate, good news for those waiting for interest rates to fall.
Alrighty, on to story number 2. Telstra will cut about 10% of its workforce, 2,800 jobs, in an effort to save $350 million as it struggles to compete with new technologies.
It's part of Telstra's long-term plan to become more efficient and reflects the fact that people are shifting from traditional voice calls, particularly on landlines, to cheaper internet-based services provided by software companies. CEO Vicky Brady said Telstra is working through an evolving competitive landscape, rapid advances in tech, changing customer needs and ongoing inflationary pressures. Telstra will also stop its practice of linking price rises on monthly mobile plans to inflation, giving it leeway to adjust prices at different times. Caused lots of outcry yesterday. Federal Treasurer Jim Chalmers said that the cuts would certainly face scrutiny. The Communications Workers Union called the job cuts absolutely appalling. Michael?
On to story number 3 now, Sean. And Prime Minister Anthony Albanese was under fire yesterday about his response to the International Criminal Court issuing arrest warrants for the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Hamas leaders.
Mr Albanese was keen to deflect questions about the announcement, unlike US President Joe Biden, who called the decision by the International Criminal Court outrageous. The local Prime Minister said he doesn't comment on court processes in Australia, let alone globally, to which Australia is not a party. The opposition leader Peter Dutton blasted the PM, saying he had squibbed it and sold out Australia. Also yesterday, Mr Albanese reiterated his support for Julian Assange in the wake of his extradition appeal win in the British High Court. Mr Albanese said his position hadn't changed and there was nothing served by the ongoing incarceration of Mr Assange. Also yesterday, we found out that Australian tourists will be able to start leaving New Caledonia after being given the green light by French authorities.
Story number 4, there was plenty of confusion yesterday around whether Star Entertainment did or did not receive an offer from Hard Rock Hotels and Resorts, with the US-based organisation saying they weren't actually aware of any discussions.
Sounds like a case of mistaken identity or over-enthusiastic reporters, or maybe Star didn't mind being associated with the Hard Rock name. Overnight on Monday, Hard Rock International denied it was linked to any proposal for Star Entertainment, said it had not licensed its name to any other proposal, and it could take legal action if anyone used it. The US group said they were investigating the matter. Then yesterday, the Star locally came out and said the company had received inbound interest from a number of external parties regarding potential transactions, including an incomplete and indicative proposal from a consortium of investors which included the entity Hard Rock Hotels and Resorts Pacific, which is actually different to Hard Rock International. All that confusion sent Star's share price lower yesterday.
All right, last one. Story number 5. It is official, at least in the ACCC's eyes. Australia's domestic aviation sector has recovered from the COVID-19 pandemic.
Of course, travel was among the hardest sectors hit by the pandemic, airlines in particular, since they couldn't fly people around. The Competition Watchdog's latest report on the airline industry, released yesterday, says the major airlines, Jetstar, Qantas, Rex, Virgin Australia, and the now demised Bonza, carried 4.9 million domestic passengers in March, 98.8% of the March 2019 figure. It means airfares have fallen, and the ACCC reckons they might have further to fall. Good news. Just an aside here, in February 24, the actual number was higher than February 29, but a couple of one-off factors there. One was Taylor Swift concerts. The other was World Wrestling Entertainment holding an event in Perth. There you go.
There you go, indeed. The top 5 stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It's Wednesday, the 22nd of May, 2024. Remember to hit follow on the podcast, and if 5 minutes isn't enough, you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 business news by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.